Hello and welcome to the OKPreps Extra Show. I'm Patrick Prince, joined as always by Barry Lewis. Barry and I took the week off last week as Barry took some well-earned R&R after covering a million hours of state basketball tournament. So good to be back with you, Barry. Always good chatting with you. Let's start with KD Jones, Jenks running back, kind of shockingly. Well, not kinda. It was shockingly that he committed to Oklahoma State yesterday. You were there. Our colleague Bill Hasten was there. We'll talk a little bit in a second about how we think he'll do at the next level, but just first let's just address how we got here because Oklahoma State was not on his initial five that he released in January, I think. So how did we get here?
Yes, what a dramatic turnaround. And he wasn't, as he said, he wasn't even included in his top 11 back in January. So no way could I have imagined that here at the end of March that we would see KD committing to OSU. And of course, he couldn't have even imagined that 3 months ago. But as he said, except for Mike Gundy, it's the head coach. It's virtually an entirely new coaching staff at OSU, and that's what made the difference. A new coaching staff, and they reached out to him, uh, especially running backs coach Corey Patterson, and here we are, KD Jones. Who would have imagined that the son of a former OU running back and someone who's loved to watch OU would wind up at OSU, especially when they hadn't really shown any interest in him until January. So it's one of the more dramatic turnarounds in recruiting that I've seen of a high profile marquee player at the level of KD Jones.
You and I are both big fans of KD Jones, not only for his skill, but also the young man he is. He's a great guy. You talk to the people at Jinx, they think very highly of him. But you never know with these high school stars how their skills will translate to the next level. How do you think KD Jones's skills translate to the next level?
I think the sky's the limit for him. I think they translate to the next level at least as well as his dad, Kiwan's skills did at OU, and he had a very productive career at OU. I wouldn't say it was a star career at OU, but it was a very productive 4 years
Yeah,
that he
yeah.
had at OU 2002 to 05. So I think the sky is the limit for KD at OSU. He's got everything you want in a running back: toughness, speed, and he has the ability to make clutch plays. That's sort of one of those intangibles. Sometimes we have some really 4 or 5 star players that are really highly thought of, but I've never seen them make a clutch play. I mean, they've looked good at camps and workouts and all that type of stuff, but I never see them make a clutch play when it really matters. I've seen KD Jones make a lot of clutch plays.
Well, and I've seen him several times, Barry. You've seen him much more than I have. What you just said kind of rang true for me. He plays tougher than his weight. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, he's shifty and he's got all the moves, but yeah, he's a tough kid, and he runs that way.
Yes, I mean he seems like he's got all the intangibles, and I'm excited to see what he can do at OSU. Want to remind people that verbal commitments are not binding. It's a long way between now and December. However, they're going to handle the official signing stuff of that this year is yet to be seen. Or is yet to be determined because signing day is going to be like a whole different thing this year. That's for another show, another time. So a lot can happen in 8 months. I mean, statistically, those who make their commitments at this time of the year, less than half of them, and the number's growing higher as far as more and more people who commit early do not wind up at the school they commit to in the spring. But I have it's just my hunch with KD that unless something dramatic happens at OSU to affect the landscape there, that he's going to stick with the commitment and go to OSU. It just seemed just my hunch from talking with him and seeing him yesterday. I think he is. This is a really strong. I mean, there are strong commitments and weak commitments. Asked him if he was planning to take other visits, and a lot of times these early commits will go ahead and take all the visits they've got scheduled or set up or planning to do. and KD was not planning that, at least as of now. So there's soft commitments, and then there's really strong commitments. His seems like a strong commitment. Now, if OSU has a really bad season and Mike Gundy's no longer coach, and there's big coaching staff changes, who knows what happens. But I think as of now, KD Jones, this looks like as solid of a commitment as you could expect at this time.
Barry, let's transition to the future of high school basketball. You just finished, well, a week or so ago, a long run at State Fair Arena covering the state basketball tournament. They are tearing down State Fair Arena. They're building a new one. The future of state basketball is what?
If I had to make a prediction on what's going to happen with the 6A and 5A tournaments, and this is a prediction, nothing has happened along those lines yet, is that this year is just what we saw at State Fair Arena, which will no longer be around. It'll be in a new arena, but basically, I have a feeling just from hearing the OSSAA reactions all week long is that they really liked this format of everything being at one main site pretty much, except for the 6A and 5A semifinals. Um, they really liked everything being at one site. And so I can see them, even though they said it was just on a 1 year basis to celebrate State Fair Arena, the big house, I can see this becoming a permanent deal, although nothing has been done to make it a permanent deal. And I bet they'll take bids on the 6A, and that usually will take place in the next month or two if they do it as they've traditionally done it. They'll take bids for the 6A and 5A, but I think going into this process, it's just my hunch that it'd have to be a really blockbuster, great deal somewhere else for it to pry away 6A and 5A away from the fairgrounds in Oklahoma City.
If it ends up staying there, do you like that? Is that a good place to have it?
Um, I Yes and no. I mean, I've got mixed feelings on it. Whereas in football, I really like what they've developed with the football championships at UCO. Perfect place, perfect setting. UCO really loves it. As far as state basketball, I've got mixed feelings. On one hand, I'd really love 6A and 5A to come back to the Tulsa area. I think the Tulsa area needs something when it comes to state basketball that Oklahoma City shouldn't have at all. So hopefully there'll be a really strong bid from someone in Tulsa, and I'd like to see it come back to Tulsa. But the good point about having everything at one site is that a basketball fan can, except for on Friday when there's the overload of games, you have to find a sub site for 6A and 5A semifinals. Although it doesn't have to be the 6A and 5A semifinals being sent to a sub site. Maybe next year it's 3A and 4A. I like a basketball fan being able to see, at least having the chance, just like what you have in football with the championship games, to see it all instead of going to all these different sub sites on Thursday. There is an advantage to the way this format is. However, part of the fun of the old format was after you qualify for state, getting to enjoy it the 3 or 4 or 5 days after qualifying for state and then playing in state, where you're just feeling sky high and looking forward to the state tournament. Now it's just like it's such a quick turnaround. And that's a disadvantage. And there's some really long days, I will have to say, when you're tipping off at 9 a.m. and not finishing up to around midnight each day, even if you don't have any power failures. um, so there are pros and cons in each side. And I think I liked it a little more than I thought I would this year. But it does make for a couple of really long weeks.
Yeah. Before you and I went live, you were telling me a little bit about some breaking news on the OSSAA front. What's going on there?
Yes, the OSSAA has named as an assistant director in charge of 6A and 5A basketball Lenny Hatchett, one of the state's top coaches over the past decade at Del City. He's been at Del City for 9 years and led them to 9 state tournament berths, a couple of state titles, couple other runner-up finishes. Very well respected and well known throughout basketball circles. He will replace the retiring Amy Castle at the 1st of July. And so it's a really interesting hire because not always, but a lot of times the OSSAA will hire as assistant directors someone who's an administrator from a school or someone who's not as well known. And that's all fine. But to have like a really marquee name uh, as Lenny Hatchett in charge of 6A and 5A basketball. And who knows more about 6A and 5A basketball than Lenny Hatchett, who's won state championships at in each of those classes in the last decade. So I think this has potential to be a really great hire for the OSSAA.
In terms of the action on the court, Barry, you saw a lot of state tournament basketball. Your top tournament takeaway was what?
What Rudy Garcia said 2 weeks or so before the state tournament, anything can happen. I mean, just when you think you've got it all figured out, it's a reminder, even when things look like a slam dunk, anything can happen. I thought there was no way in 6A. Well, I've already known that anything potentially can happen, but if you would have told me before the 6A boys state tournament that neither Owasso nor Broken Arrow would be in the championship game, I would have thought you're crazy. I mean, one of them's got to be in it. I mean, I thought Owasso was an incredibly strong favorite, and if not Owasso, then Broken Arrow's got to make it. But instead, wow, you've got Deer Creek and Union. Who would have thought? And there were some other unpredictable moments at state tournament, and then there were some predictable moments, but there was a lot of wild and crazy things that happened. So just when you think you've got it all figured out, it was a reminder. As Rudy Garcia in his 30 years has seen a lot, that he said it 2 weeks before the state tournament. Just get in the state tournament because anything can happen.
One of the most popular stories on our website this week, Barry, is a story you wrote on Adair coach Scott Winfield retiring just from girls basketball. He's still going to keep some of his other sports after 21 years. Your reaction not only to the popularity of that story, but just the news in general.
Yes, again, you never know what stories will really connect with people. Although I had a feeling this would connect because the Winfield family has, I mean, such a great legacy in the Adair community. And he has done such a great job at Adair, very much a beloved coach, his family beloved there. And 17 state tournament berths over the past 20 years. I
Mm.
mean, that's pretty incredible at the 3A level. And that includes one stretch, 15 straight years. That is so amazing. And that includes a couple of state championships, a couple other title games. And he was our all world coach of the year for all girls sports back in 2019. Just an amazing run he's had. He's also, he just need to step away. He's been a three-sport coach for 29 years. It's nonstop when you think because he also does girls, cross country, and track. I mean, there's no time to rest between cross country and basketball. That's for sure. And then you go right into track. And so he just needed to step away from the sport that was monopolizing most of his time. And but he brings, as others will tell you, he brings the same intensity to track and cross country as he does to basketball. And he's won state championship in girls cross country too. So what a tremendous coach that he is, and what a legacy, and what big shoes to fill for his successor.
And they've had some players there too, right? As I
Yes, they've
kind
had,
of
yeah, they've had of course, as all coaches will say, that you just don't, great players help make a great coach, and of course, it goes hand in hand. And great coaches can help in the development of great players. So it's been an incredible run, and I thought it was really cool when he said, in the final year of the Big House, that's where he coached his final game at basketball. So it was a last hurrah for both of them.
yeah. All right, Barry, before we get out of here, you want to drop some announcements on the folks?
Yes. as we're talking about state championships coming to Tulsa, and there's not many of them, although there are a few golf championships that will be played in the Tulsa area this year. But a big announcement, our big, yes, a big development from the OSSAA meeting yesterday is that the 6A and 5A state baseball finals will be at One Oak Field on May 17th. So that's very exciting. And that will be a part of a big triple header that day. You could watch 6A and 5A ball at 10:30, I believe, is when the first pitch is thrown, and then early in the afternoon, and then the Drillers will be playing that night. So just hang out in downtown Tulsa and at One Oak Field all day. So that's going to be fun. I've already got that date circled on my calendar. And also to all basketball coaches and, for that matter, swimming and wrestling coaches, if you have not received an all world, for those in the area, um, an all world nomination form, please reach out to me at barry.lewis@tulsaworld.com. And for all basketball coaches, both in the metro and across the state, we've got 1,000 coaches. And so trying to send out emails with forms to 1,000 coaches. And I know I'm not, probably there's a good chance I'm not connecting with everyone. So if you have not received an all-state form from me, please contact me. Again, that's barry.lewis@tulsaworld.com. Trying to get the whole state covered, but there's a lot of coaches to get those forms too.
All right, we'll call that a show for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Barry and I will be back next week.